Talkspace is the #1 rated online therapy, bringing you professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatrists who you can access anytime, anywhere. Talkspace makes getting the help that you need easy, accessible, and affordable. One of my favorite things about Talkspace is that affordability. Talkspace therapy and psychiatry are covered by most insurers, and most insured members pay a copay of $0. Also, Talkspace is affordable even out of pocket. Therapy, of course, can be costly, but part of the mission of Talkspace is to provide quality care that is accessible and affordable, whether you are insured or not. And here's a special offer for listeners of the Al Galdi podcast. You get $80 off your first month of Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com/podcast and enter the promo code SPACE80, that's SPACE80, to match with a licensed therapist today. Go to Talkspace.com/podcast and enter that promo code SPACE80.
And now, Superhuman Shaq.
I keep telling them not to say that. I'm no superhuman. Believe it or not, I struggle with moderate obstructive sleep apnea, or OSA. In adults with obesity, moderate to severe OSA is a condition where breathing is interrupted during sleep with loud snoring, choking, gasping for air, and even daytime fatigue. Let's just say it can sound a lot like this. Sound familiar? Learn more at don'tsleeponosa.com.
This information is provided by Lilly, a medicine company.
And away we go, episode 1205 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Monday, November 24th, 2025. It is the day on which Washington Commanders head coach Dan Quinn is doing a post-bye-week press conference, and it is at this presser that he is expected to provide an update on quarterback Jayden Daniels, who has missed the team's last 2 games due to a dislocated left elbow, his 3rd injury in playing in just 6 of the team's 11 games in the NFL's 2025 regular season. Is Daniels done for the season? Is Daniels playing again this season? Could it be that Daniels might play in our team's next game, the 3-8 Commanders against the 9-2 Denver Broncos at Northwest Stadium on Sunday Night Football this Sunday night at 8:20. By the way, the Commanders QB2 Marcus Mariota, he this past Saturday was the guest game picker on ESPN's College Game Day. He credited one of his selections to Jayden Daniels. Here you go.
A game like this, you got to ask the smartest people you know. Jayden Daniels is one of the smartest people I know. He said to rock with the Crimson, so I'm picking Harvard too.
Yeah, well, Jayden Daniels did not exactly nail that pick. Harvard lost at Yale 45-28 on Saturday afternoon. Picking college football games, not so easy. Although Goldilocks went 3-2 on Saturday. Hello and welcome to this Monday installment of the Al Galdi podcast. Next segment, a conversation with Commanders insider Nicki Jhabvala of The Athletic on the state of our team. You know, Nicki warned us that the Commanders were going to have a disappointing season. She has been proven correct. She'll discuss that, how the vibe for the team was off during training camp, her evaluation of Jayden Daniels' play in this regular season, the likelihood of Dan Quinn remaining as the team's defensive coordinator beyond this season, which defensive player's regression has been most harmful to the defense, and more. Nicki Jhabvala, next segment. By the way, Nicki on Friday morning broke the news that the Commanders will be the designated home team for an international game in the NFL's 2026 regular season. Market to be determined, but the Commanders, for a second consecutive season, will have an international game. And also on the show, I will talk college football, the Washington Capitals, the Washington Wizards, the Washington Nationals, the Baltimore Orioles, and college basketball. Never forget, this is the podcast that follows Washington, D.C. area sports so that you don't have to. This podcast is like the Sports Center for D.C. area sports. News, analysis, opinion, and scheduled fun. During our college football segment, we'll break down losses for Maryland, Virginia Tech, and Liberty, and wins for James Madison and Old Dominion. Maryland's losing streak now is at 7 games, but James Madison's winning streak now is at 9 games. The Caps, they on Saturday night had yet another game in which they dominated the puck possession battle, but were hideous on special teams. A 5-3 loss to the Tampa Bay Lightning at Capital One Arena on Saturday night. Our rebuilding and tanking Wizards, they now have lost 14 consecutive games, 2 losses over the weekend. Friday night, a 140-110 loss at the Toronto Raptors. Saturday night, a 121-120 loss at the Chicago Bulls. So we this past Friday at 8 p.m. had the deadline by which MLB teams needed to tender contracts to arbitration-eligible players, or else those guys became free agents. A lot to get to with the Nats and Does regarding that deadline. And college basketball over the weekend included Georgetown improving to 5-0 in a regular season for the first time since the 2017-2018 regular season, and Virginia going 1-1 over 2 games in the 2025 Greenbrier tip-off. You could hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me, the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Lots of feedback on Commanders general manager Adam Peters. What I'm going to do is read through some emails and then give a response. Email from Rob Stevens in Houston. Subject, the failure begins with Adam Peters. Writes Rob. Hey, Al, been a fan of yours since your old 980 days. I listen to the pod regularly, and you really put a lot of hard work into putting out a quality product. On Peters, the blunt reality is that he inherited a roster that needed a complete overhaul. That's not his fault. 2 years later, the roster needs another complete overhaul. Some of that is his fault. I've heard the debate about whether or not Peters should have paid Terry. Well, Peters eventually paid Terry after he missed training camp. If you're going to pay somebody eventually, pay the person early so the team can build chemistry. Peters signed our buddy Matt Gay to the highest guaranteed salary for a kicker on a 1-year contract in history. How'd that work out? And lastly, the fact is that the roster that Peters constructed is the oldest roster in the league. And this shows. Watching our slow defenders chasing opposing teams' speedy receivers and running backs is like watching a dog chase a 737 as it's taking off. It's embarrassing. I just want accountability to be spread far and wide. We have a talent issue. Thank you for the email, Rob. Email from Michael Lindsay. Writes Michael, hi, Al. Hope all is well. This email has been a long time coming. I've been sitting on these thoughts for weeks now. Frankly, I'm frustrated with this organization. I truly believed we had exorcised the demons of the Dan Snyder era, yet here we are watching the same mistakes play out again. Our record this year is an indictment of the organization as a whole. Let me explain why. First, injuries are part of the game. Every team deals with them. Yes, we've had our fair share, but a well-built organization can withstand injuries. Let's start with the offseason and the way that Adam Peters constructed this team. Waiting the entire summer to sign Terry McLaurin was a major misstep. If there was tension in that relationship, trade him and move forward. Then there's the decision to rely on Noah Brown as a contributor despite his long history of injuries. The mismanagement of the wide receiver room has been perhaps the biggest failure of all, not surrounding our franchise quarterback with the weapons he needs. The offensive line was addressed, but you could argue that it was not the area of greatest concern. The priority should have been to surround Jayden with more talent at wide receiver, tight end, and running back. And speaking of running backs, did anyone realistically expect Austin Eckler to stay healthy all season? Second, you were the first to note the Peters pause when he initially assessed our roster as GM. Now, I'm the one pausing on Peters. Aside from Jayden, which of Peters' draft picks is really making an impact? We should also pause Peters because not only has his drafting been underwhelming, but his reliance on signing older veterans to cheap deals, 1-year deals, creates a revolving door of new players learning to play together. That leads to slow starts, missed assignments, and a lack of continuity from season to season. Finally, it is painfully obvious that Peters is clueless when it comes to picking field goal kickers. I'll just leave it at that. This organization committed malpractice, not only by leaving Jayden in the game against the Seahawks for too long, but by failing to give him the offensive support that could have ensured his continued growth and led to our first back-to-back playoff appearances in ages. Thank you for providing this forum to vent. It has been frustrating to see how many of this team's struggles have been self-inflicted. Thank you for the email, Michael. Email from Dr. CCB. Writes the doctor. Good morning, Galdi. I hope you had a nice weekend and that the family's doing well. Please help me to understand why some of our fan base is upset with Adam Peters. look at what he had to work with this season with all of the injuries to so many key players. What did these fans expect for Peters to do playing third and fourth string players? No one expected JD5 to be hurt 3 times or our number one receiver to be out for 2/3 of the games. Are fans upset because Peters did not do enough in the offseason or with free agency? As you always do, please help me understand the rage. But I will tell you, Galdi, the one area where I do blame Adam Peters, or maybe Dan Quinn, whoever made the decision, is with Matt Gay. Peters and Quinn knew Gay's record and how sorry he had been from long distance. I don't know who else was out there, but Peters and Quinn should not have chosen Gay. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much, Dr. CCB. You do the same. So, to me, multiple things are true about Adam Peters. Adam Peters has earned a benefit of the doubt. He just became the team's GM 23 months ago, January 2024, and he had his first offseason as the team's GM flipped what had been a horrendous roster to where the team made the NFC Championship game last season. B, the department in which Adam Peters is supposed to most excel, the NFL draft, as of now, has not been an area in which he has excelled. Both of these things are true, A and B. It is concerning that the only player taken by Adam Peters over his 2 NFL drafts as Commanders GM, who you right now would call a clear hit, is Jayden Daniels. There are some guys showing progress, namely right tackle Josh Connerly Jr. and linebacker Jordan McGee, but the regression of cornerback Mikey Sainristil and tackle/guard Brandon Coleman is concerning. And the lack of progress/impact from others is concerning. You know, the Commanders in the 2024 NFL Draft had 3 second-round picks. The team with those 3 second-round picks took interior defensive lineman Johnny Newton, cornerback Mikey Sainristil, and tight end Ben Sinnott. Right now, it is entirely possible that Peters whiffed on all 3 of those picks. That's concerning. And yes, the Commanders have been a mess at kicker under Peters. The team has acquired 10 kickers since the start of the NFL's 2024-2025 league year on March 12th, 2024. And yes, Peters this past offseason did not do enough at receiver. That has become clear. However, this notion that I keep seeing and hearing that Peters had a terrible 2025 offseason, that's wrong. The trades for left tackle Laramie Tunsil and receiver Deebo Samuel Sr. look good. The signing of interior defensive lineman Javon Kinlaw as an unrestricted free agent, a signing that a lot of people questioned, looks good. Peters hit on an under-the-radar unrestricted free agent signing in that of edge defender Jacob Martin. Peters' 2025 offseason was not the bust that a lot of people think that it was. What's funny with Peters is that he so far as Commanders GM has been better in free agency than he has been at the NFL draft, at least as things stand now. The evaluations of his 2 NFL drafts as Commanders GM are evolving, but remember, he had an excellent 2024 offseason in terms of free agency. And regarding the contract extension negotiations with receiver Terry McLaurin this past summer, look, the widespread reporting has been that McLaurin's initial ask was sky high and totally unreasonable. And it's one thing if that's just a starting point, but it's another thing if McLaurin didn't budge off that ask for quite some time. If it is true that the McLaurin initial ask was sky high and totally unreasonable, and if it is true that McLaurin did not budge off that ask for quite some time, how was Adam Peters supposed to get a deal done sooner? There is this narrative that Adam Peters, screwed Terry McLaurin. Maybe the person who screwed Terry McLaurin wasn't Adam Peters, but was McLaurin's agent, Buddy Baker. Maybe Buddy Baker tried to make a reputation off these contract extension negotiations and instead got worked. Because make no mistake, Adam Peters won the negotiations. That is a very team-friendly extension to which the Commanders signed McLaurin in late August. Adam Peters is not above criticism, and I am disturbed by where we are with his 2 NFL draft classes as Commanders GM, but there is some perspective that is needed when judging Peters, and specific to the Commanders' disappointing 2025 season. I do put the majority of the blame for that on horrendous injury luck. By the way, what's funny about the injuries is that many of the team's oldest players have not missed time due to injury. That's the irony of this Commanders season. The Commanders absolutely need to get younger, no doubt. But tight end Zach Ertz, age 35 season. Linebacker Bobby Wagner, age 35 season. Linebacker and special teams ace Nick Bellore, age 36 season. Edge defender Von Miller, age 36 season. Punter Tress Way, age 35 season. Long snapper Tyler Ott, age 33 season. Each of those guys has played in each of the Commanders' 11 games in this regular season. Today's law group, Accident and Injury Lawyers. It has been a Washington, D.C. institution for decades. If you feel that you've been wronged, if you think that you've been wronged but aren't sure, contact today's law group, Accident and Injury Lawyers, and schedule a no-obligation appointment. Call 202-902-7611 or visit WashingtonDCInjuryLawyers.com and tell the NACE Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. Founded in 1979, the NACE Law Group offers fierce advocacy on behalf of medical malpractice, birth injury, and personal injury victims. Led by the great Chris Nace, the NACE Law Group is focused on providing exceptional care and counsel for those who need such things the most. The NACE Law Group fights for what it believes in, you, your family, and your future. You with the NACE Law Group have an experienced advocate on your side. The NACE Law Group has secured millions of dollars in verdict and settlement amounts for clients to better enable them to care for themselves and their families. Call 202-902-7611 or visit WashingtonDCInjuryLawyers.com and tell the NACE Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. That's 202-902-7611 or WashingtonDCInjuryLawyers.com, and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. The NACE Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers. If you are a Washington Commanders fan who is on the always rational, always sensible, never factually incorrect social media platform X, you in recent weeks perhaps have noticed posts from Commanders fans along the lines of, "I owe Nicki an apology," or "We owe Nicki an apology," or "Nicki was right," or "We should have listened to Nicki." And what all of that is about is our guest, Commanders insider Nicki Jhabvala of The Athletic, having been one of the few people in the Washington, D.C. area sports media to have predicted a disappointing 2025 season for the Commanders. Now, I don't know that she expected the season to be this bad, but she warned us, and we did not listen. And so here we are, as the Commanders come out of their Week 12 bye in a 2025 NFL regular season in which they are just 3-8. You could follow Nicki on X at Nicki Jhabvala, and Jhabvala is spelled Jhabvala. Hey, Nicki, nice to talk to you. Have you decided yet whether you're going to forgive all of these people apologizing to you?
I still feel like I got it wrong because I could not have predicted this. I didn't, but my prediction was 8-9 because I feel like we saw a lot of the things that we're seeing now. But I never could have predicted like the number of injuries they dealt with and the way they're losing games. The way the defense has played. I mean, I actually thought one of the deepest positions going into the season was their secondary, and yikes, that their secondary's been rough for much of the season. So yeah, I still feel like I got it wrong, but yeah, all's forgiven. But yeah, it's a weird turn after the 12-5 season.
For sure. And something that you noted during 2025 Commanders training camp was that the vibe was off. And that now seems very prescient given what has happened this season. What did you notice with the team's vibe during camp?
Yeah, it is. I don't want to say there wasn't a lack of focus. They were definitely focused. It was not an intense training camp by any means. And I know 2024 was not super intense. I mean, it's sort of all relative compared to like the Eric Bieniemy season where they were pretty much running to the ground going into the game or going into the season. And, that was a whole different extreme. But this one felt almost, I don't want to say too lax because I know there's a method to everything they do. And I'm just a bystander. What the heck do I know? Right. But there was very little hitting. I know that it's restricted anyway, but they didn't come close to the maximum allowed full contact practices. It just felt super light to the point where you're like, man, are they going to be okay if they get hit? Are they prepared? So that was one of the things. And then, Terry being out, that whole saga it was strange. Um, and I don't know that anybody knew the true story. I think that's only, what happened between Terry and Adam Peters. Not that there's anything like more salacious than but what's been reported, but there were obviously, as with any negotiation, there's two sides. And, it was just a weird time, when he would come back out and sign autographs with fans after the other players had worked out and were going in. It was just there's like a disconnect there. So there was that, and I just feel like they didn't have the depth at positions that they had even before. I mean, I thought the receiving core, though they added Debo, I thought they were thinner than they were when they had Alameda and Diami, and not that those players were exceptional receivers, but they provided depth and often a reliability that they've been lacking within that group. So that was sort of all of it. It was mostly on the offense. I didn't see the defense, falling out quite like it has. But it definitely didn't feel like it did in 2024 when you would see Jayden, you'd see the offense roll, and you're like, oh, wow, they might have something here. You didn't get that feeling.
You, during Commanders head coach Dan Quinn's post-practice press conference on November 7th, had an interesting exchange with Quinn. Here it is.
Sort of broader question. When you first got here, I think you said this would be more of a recalibration. Do you feel the same now at this point in the season? Do you still feel like the team is sort of where you thought it would be?
Fair question. We're obviously in a tough slump. I mean, like, you can't deny this. But I don't feel differently. How we're performing does not make me happy. We're beating ourselves. We're not hitting the marks that we need to, but that doesn't change my outlook or my belief. I have a sense that it's about to go again. And I see that because of practice. I see that because of locker room, but it does have to take place on the field too, Nicki. That's a big deal. But I also love there's some people that are developing, but it still comes down to the performance on the field. So I have not changed my mindset on that in the midst of a tough stretch for us. I have not changed my mindset on that.
All right, what you asked about gets to a central issue with this Commanders season. Is it a one-off due mostly to horrendous injury luck, or is the season a sign that the team's roster is deficient enough to where a rebuild is needed, that a recalibration is not enough? How would you answer the question that you asked Quinn on November 7th?
I for one, I think it's all semantics. Whatever R word you want to use, fine. But I think it's always been more than a small tweak here or there. I think it's always been a rebuild. And what they did in 2024 was a rebuild. They gutted their front office. They overhauled their coaching staff. 60% of the roster was new. That is by definition a rebuild. And I think the way they built that roster, because so many guys were on short-term deals, it was going to be another rebuild this year, and it's going to be another rebuild after this season because of, how many guys are older and on shorter-term deals. But in terms of talent in different positional groups, I think it was always going to be a rebuild. And the reason I asked that was more to get a sense of, to see how, because near the end of last season, or at the end of last season, they clearly felt like the process had been expedited. It's why they traded for Marshawn Lattimore. It's why they traded for Laramie Tunsil, which I agreed with. It's why they went out and got Debo. They felt like they were further along, maybe a few pieces away from really going to the end. But this season, to me, really showed that they're not close at all. And I wonder if my point asking was to get a sense of if Quinn felt that same way, like maybe they're not as far ahead as they once thought, 10 months ago. I don't know how anybody could claim this team is close. Not now.
Dan Quinn on Monday is doing a post-bye week press conference at which he is expected to provide an update on quarterback Jayden Daniels of him missing the Commanders' last 2 games due to a dislocated left elbow, his 3rd injury in playing in just 6 of the team's 11 games this regular season. Do you expect Daniels to play again this season?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not sure he's healthy enough to play just yet. And then you run into the question, okay, if you wait another few games and they lose another few games, what's the point then? Sure, you would love to have them get these reps, even though, their shot at the playoffs are highly unlikely. But if it's down to just 2 games, is it really worth it at that point? They've had so many injuries, and I do think the injuries have played a huge part. I mean, they are not anywhere close to the team they were in week 1. Do you put him at greater risk? That's why they pay Dan Quinn the big bucks. I don't know.
Evaluating Jayden Daniels' actual play in this regular season is tricky. A, he has played in just 6 of the Commanders' 11 games due to 3 different injuries. B, the team's receiving core has been hammered by injury. That said, what do you think about how he has played in this regular season?
I thought he had one not-so-good game. The one, with the multiple turnovers. Outside of that, I think he's still been Jayden. I think he has nothing to work with. I think he's got no pass catchers. His most reliable pass catcher has been Zach Ertz. And Zach Ertz has been good, but Zach Ertz is kind of he's near almost at the end. Where are the core pieces on this team? He hasn't had Terry or Noah together. He hasn't had his starting offense together as originally envisioned for a single snap this season. I mean, he hasn't played with Sam Cosmi at right guard, with both Terry and Noah, with Austin Eckler back there. He hasn't had that full starting lineup at all this season. And I think last year everything went right. They won 6 games on the last play from scrimmage. Everything went in their favor. And I think that kind of success can mask a lot of deficiencies. And I think this year a lot of things are going wrong. They're not going in their favor. So I think their reality is probably somewhere in the middle, some happy medium in there where they still have a lot of work to do on the roster, but they're not this bad. And I think we saw that the defense, they're capable of playing much better. Why they haven't been playing like they did in Madrid is, I don't know. Clearly they're capable of it, even when they're down to their, 2nd, 3rd string options. But they've never seemed to put all 3 phases together. There's always at least 1 or 2 that are screwing up and bringing the team down. I don't buy into that 2nd-year slump thing. I think the roster was not built for him to have success. I think the 2 things that were improvements were the play on the edges of the line. I thought Laramie's had a decent season. I think Josh Connerly is progressing as a rookie tackle. I like those investments. But I think losing Austin Eckler, who is one of your best playmaker, he could get open better than anybody. That stung. You were without your top 3 receivers for a game. Then you lost 4, might be out 5 now. I mean, you signed, Treylon Burks to fill the void for some of those injuries. And after 20-something snaps, he's hurt.
Yeah, the injury luck for the Commanders this season has been brutal. Much more with Nicki Jhabvala in moments. Nova Fireplace and Stove is Northern Virginia's go-to expert for fireplaces. Transform the look and feel of your home and increase its value by visiting Nova Fireplace and Stove in Woodbridge, Virginia, or by visiting novafireplaceandstove.com. And make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you for $25 off any service. Come in and see Nova Fireplace and Stove's stunning displays, including custom fireplace glass doors and stone refacing options that can completely transform the look of your fireplace. From sleek and modern to rustic and cozy, Nova Fireplace and Stove has something for every style. And here's what else Nova Fireplace and Stove offers: gas fireplace service and repair, chimney cleaning and brickwork repair, generator installation, panel replacements, and water heater repairs, smoke detectors, security lights, and more. Nova Fireplace and Stove is a family-owned, fully licensed and insured company with over-the-top credentials, gas and electrical master's licenses, a Class A contractor's license, and a long list of 5-star reviews to back all of this up. Every job includes a free in-home estimate, and for listeners of the Al Galdi podcast, Nova Fireplace and Stove is offering $25 off any service. Just mention this ad. Nova Fireplace and Stove only works in Northern Virginia and thus knows the homes, the codes, and the people. Your satisfaction is 100% guaranteed. Nova Fireplace and Stove in Woodbridge, Virginia, or NovaFireplaceandStove.com, and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you for $25 off any service. Nova Fireplace and Stove, where comfort meets craftsmanship and your fireplace becomes the heart of your home. We're talking with Commanders insider Nicki Jhabvala of The Athletic. If the defense is better with Dan Quinn as defensive coordinator, do you think that there's a decent chance that he'll remain as defensive coordinator? Or do you think that the overwhelming likelihood, regardless of how the defense plays the rest of this season, is that the team this coming offseason hires a defensive coordinator / promotes someone to defensive coordinator?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I remember when he was hired here, one of the things he said was, he did a full 360 evaluation of himself, and he learned from his time in Atlanta that he needs to delegate more. He can't do it all and still be a good head coach. And that was the reason he wasn't calling plays when he first came here, was he felt like he needed his focus on the team at large. So I don't know if he now feels that it is sustainable, if this is just sort of a stopgap approach where, you're just trying to get through the season and then figure out who's going to come in and replace Joe Witt, or if they view this as a long-term solution. But I wouldn't be surprised if they bring in another coordinator. To me, it feels like a lot if he was, and he does seem like a truthful guy, as truthful as a head coach in the NFL can be. That he doesn't want to repeat some of the mistakes from Atlanta. I think it's almost impossible not to if you're being both coordinator and head coach, especially for a team that, going back to your earlier question, will be in a significant rebuild.
3 Commanders defensive players especially stand out as having regressed this season. Linebacker Frankie Louvu, cornerback Mikey Sainristil, and safety Quan Martin. Which player's regression has been most damaging to the defense?
All 3 are pretty brutal because they're all playing critical positions. I almost want to say Mikey, just because they viewed him as somebody who could play inside and outside. They drafted him to be the slot. They moved him outside, and he did pretty well there last season. So they thought they had one of their unofficially starting positions. They play so much nickel that both cornerback positions are starters. So I feel like that's been a big one. And the mistakes he's made have been pretty brutal. Even on special teams, going back to, Madrid with a muff punt. But he was in there mostly because of injuries. But I think that's where I think Frankie Louvu is just not in the right. I don't think they're using him the right way. They've been putting him on the line more just because they have no pass rushers left. They have no DNs that are healthy anymore. But he's not able to create. I think he had going into the Madrid game, I think he only had like 1 pressure given all his plays up on the line. I just don't think you can use him like you used Micah Parsons in a sense. I think you gotta use him differently. And then Quan Martin, I feel like Quan's a really good player. I don't think it's sort of like the Terry McLaurin debate. Like he's always been a very, very good receiver. I think like with any local market, sometimes it can get overhyped, whereas, the folks that see him every single week are like, he's elite, he's underrated. I don't know that. And this is not a personal knock on Terry. I think he's a really, really good receiver. I would not put him in the upper echelon of receivers. And I think there was a point where Quan Martin was viewed not in the same light, but similarly to the point where this is a really, really good safety who could become one of the league's best. And I don't think he had ever reached that point. But this year is no doubt a regression. I just think that back end is confused for much of the season. The tackling has been off. I feel like they've had more illegal tackles than legal ones. Truly, Frankie. Poor Frankie. But it hasn't been great. It's just been, it looks like a group that has not been taught well, but they have been taught well. This is a good coaching staff. And I agree with the coaching staff that this is more of a player performance issue, but why? I don't know. And they don't seem to know.
You, in a piece that came out this past Friday morning, broke the news that the Commanders, despite their disappointing 2025 season, are raising some season ticket prices for the 2026 season by an average of approximately 10%, but also that prices for Northwest Stadium's Upper Bowl, which accounts for nearly a quarter of the team's season tickets, are staying flat. You, in a piece that came out this past September 5th, had a number of notable stats on the team's uptick in business. The Commanders' Renaissance 2024 season was a major boon for business. Do you think that this season will undo a lot of the business gains, or not necessarily?
I don't think it'll undo it. No, I think, it may not go at the same rate it was going, but I think a lot of that too was just the newness of it all. Maybe a lot of it was simply the fact that Dan Snyder wasn't there. But you think about the season that Jayden had. It was almost, otherworldly just because of where they came from, this franchise. It was a 4-13 group. They hadn't won in years, the decades with Snyder, the turmoil, and then to go on that run. I just think it was like the perfect storm of, oh my gosh, this is remarkable. We're back. Like, fans are coming back. It was just that perfect storm. And I don't know that sort of growth is sustainable for any team, but I don't think this is going to undo it. I don't think, because a lot of that was tied to the fact that they had so much other stuff going on at the franchise, This is just one bad season of poor play on the field, but they are making strides, significant strides off the field. New stadium, like that would have never happened. So I don't think this will undo it. It may not go at the same rate. But, I don't know that it was going to continue growing at that rate either, no matter what.
It is nice to no longer have the other stuff, isn't it? For all of the Commanders' problems this season, none of them fall under the category of the other stuff.
Yes, not having to, find contacts in Congress or the DEA is wonderful. I didn't sign up for that.
Absolutely. Commanders insider Nicki Jhabvala of The Athletic. Nicki, thanks. Have a nice Thanksgiving.
Thank you. You too.
All right, good to talk to Nicki. Know this about Nicki. She started covering the team in July 2020, the single most insane month in the history of the franchise. July 2020 was when we had A, the retiring of the name Redskins and the retiring of the Redskins logo of the proud Native American warrior. B, the eruption of the ownership turmoil, lead owner Dan Snyder versus three limited partners in Robert Rothman, Dwight Shaw, and Fred Smith. And C, the eruption of the workplace misconduct scandal. All of that happened in July 2020, and that was Nicki's first month covering the team. Quite the first month. Catering by Uptown. It provides catering to perfection, whatever event you're planning, a wedding, a holiday party, whatever. Visit cateringbyuptown.com. Mention that Al Galdi sent you, and see what Catering by Uptown can do for you. Catering by Uptown provides both great service and a great price. Catering by Uptown is a family business. It's run by the Pereiras, who are great Commanders fans and loyal supporters of this podcast. Catering by Uptown specializes in handling everything so that you don't have to. Catering by Uptown understands that special events deserve to be celebrated in style and thus takes care of every detail so that you can enjoy your event. Great service, amazing cuisine, and reliability are the foundation of what makes Catering by Uptown one of the most referred caterers throughout Maryland, Washington, D.C., and Northern Virginia. And know this, if you go to cateringbyuptown.com and click on venues, you can set up your own personal tour of one of Catering by Uptown's premier venues, including outstanding waterfront venues. Catering by Uptown offers the ability to coordinate services at over 100 of the best reception halls, vineyards, farms, historic homes, event venues, banquet facilities, and wedding venues in the area. Visit cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. That's cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. Time now to talk college football. We just had week 13 of the 2025 season. We on Saturday had 5 of the 7 FBS teams of the Mid-Atlantic region in action. And we now can say with certainty that 3 of the 7 teams are not going to bowl games this season. The 4 bowl-eligible teams are Navy, Virginia, James Madison, and Old Dominion. But Maryland, Virginia Tech, and Liberty are not going to bowl games this season. And those fates for Maryland and Liberty were sealed on Saturday. Maryland fell to 4-7 overall, including 1-7 in the Big Ten, with a 45-20 loss to number 18 Michigan at CQ Stadium in College Park, Maryland on Saturday on Senior Day for the Terrapins. This was the 3rd sellout at CQ Stadium this season, but the result was a 25-point loss to, yes, a good team in Michigan. Michigan is the number 18 team in the FBS for the season's 3rd college football playoff rankings, which came out this past Tuesday night, November 18th. But Maryland lost its 7th consecutive game since a 4-0 start, from 4-0 to 4-7, and this loss clinched Maryland not going to a bowl game for a 2nd consecutive season. Maryland Director of Athletics Jim Smith on November 16th announced that he was retaining Mike Locksley as head coach for the 2026 season and that the school planned to significantly increase financial support for the football program. Good for Mike Locksley because his team's season has unraveled, and we now can update the record. Maryland now is 0-38 against ranked Big Ten teams since joining the conference beginning with the 2014 season. Maryland, with Mike Locksley as head coach, is 0-19 in games against ranked Big Ten teams, and this does not include him going 0-2 against ranked Big Ten teams as Terps interim head coach in 2015. In a sport in which upsets happen all of the time, Maryland is 0-38 against ranked Big Ten teams since joining the conference beginning with the 2014 season. Maryland's banged-up defense got ripped on Saturday. The Terps allowed Michigan to average 6.07 yards per play and go a staggering 12 for 14 on 3rd downs. The Terps allowed Michigan true freshman quarterback Bryce Underwood to go 16 for 23 for 215 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. The Terps had 2 sacks. Underwood had 6 carries for 30 yards when you take out the 2 sacks that he took. The Terps allowed Michigan running back Bryson Cusdall to have 20 carries for 100 yards and 3 touchdowns. And when it came to Maryland's true freshman quarterback, Malik Washington, he had another bad game. Washington went just 19 for 39 for just 210 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. He took 3 sacks, which totaled minus 27 yards and lost yardage. He had 7 carries for 43 yards when you take out the 3 sacks that he took. For all of the hype for Malik Washington, here's what we have. He, for this season, is 101st out of 112 qualified FBS quarterbacks per Sports Reference. In completion percentage, 57.9. Yes, he has been victimized by a good number of drops, but his inaccuracy has been a problem. During Mike Locksley's postgame press conference on Saturday night, had this exchange.
What are some of your big takeaways from Malik now that we're just about through the season?
By this time of year, I think as a freshman that didn't play a lot during training camp, missed all of training camp due to injuries, I think that he's played pretty well for us and has given us some opportunities to win. Is there room for growth? There's room for growth for all of us. But for a true freshman quarterback, I think he's played pretty well.
There has been, or at least had been, a fear that Malik Washington, as a highly touted true freshman quarterback, might transfer from Maryland after its 2025 season for a big money NIL deal with another school. Maybe, but, his stock is not exactly sky high right now. Next up for Maryland is its season finale, which is at Michigan State Saturday night at 7. Another win for James Madison. The Dukes, they improved to 10-1 overall with a 24-20 win over Washington State at Bridgeport Stadium in Harrisonburg, Virginia on Saturday afternoon. On Senior Day for the Dukes, JMU won its 9th consecutive game. James Madison for this game was the number 21 team in the FBS in the Associated Press Top 25 poll that came out on November 16th. And JMU off this win moved up to being the number 20 team in the FBS in the Associated Press Top 25 poll that came out on Sunday afternoon. Will JMU be ranked in the next college football playoff rankings, which come out this Tuesday night. JMU in this win over Washington State overcame a 17-10 halftime deficit. The Dukes won the second half 14-3. JMU's defense again was very good. The Dukes held Washington State to just 301 total net yards of offense, just 4.43 yards per play, and just 6 for 15 on third downs. JMU for this season is number 22 in the FBS in defensive efficiency per ESPN. Big game for JMU running back Wayne Knight. He had 15 carries for 126 yards and a touchdown, which was a 2nd and 10, 58-yard shotgun handoff touchdown run with 6:24 left in the fourth quarter. JMU won despite a so-so game from quarterback Alonzo Barnett III. He went just 9 for 18, did throw for 144 yards, had a touchdown pass versus an interception. He took 1 sack, which was for a 9-yard loss. He had 6 carries for 41 yards when you take out the sack that he took. Barnett quarterbacked the Duke's offense that went just 4 for 11 on third downs. But JMU won again, concluded a 6-0 regular season at home. During the post-game press conference of JMU head coach Bob Chesney on Saturday afternoon, had this exchange.
What's it mean for the program to have an undefeated home season?
Yeah, pretty great, right? Regular season, pretty great. That's what you're talking about is this. Just listen to the background. There's 500 people out there in this band, probably the best band in the country out there representing us, and the fans stuck around. And when we really needed them in the fourth quarter, I thought they did a great job of coming alive and just being present for us and, just creating that atmosphere. It was awesome.
All right, next up for James Madison is its regular season finale, which is at Coastal Carolina Saturday afternoon at 3:45. I mentioned JMU for this season being number 22 in the FBS in defensive efficiency per ESPN. Old Dominion now is number 26. ODU improved to 8-3 overall, including 5-2 in the Sun Belt Conference, with a 45-10 win at Georgia Southern on Saturday afternoon. Total domination by the Monarchs of ODU. They had 551 total net yards of offense to Georgia Southern's 249, averaged 6.89 yards per play to Georgia Southern's 4.08, went 7 for 12 on third downs to Georgia Southern going 4 for 14 on third downs, and won the time of possession battle by 9 minutes, 10 seconds. A great game for ODU quarterback Colton Joseph. He went 12 for 18 for 140 yards, a touchdown, and no interceptions. He took 1 sack, which was for an 8-yard loss. He had 19 carries for 197 yards and a touchdown when you take out the sack that he took. Colton Joseph for this season is number 23 among all qualified FBS quarterbacks in ESPN's total QBR, 75.1. I mentioned the possibility of Malik Washington transferring. What about Colton Joseph? This guy has positioned himself very well for a big money NIL deal with a power conference program. Next up for Old Dominion is its regular season finale, home to Georgia State Saturday afternoon at 2 on Senior Day for ODU. Virginia Tech, it fell to 3-8 overall, including 2-5 in the ACC, with a 34-17 loss to number 13 Miami at Lane Stadium in Blacksburg, Virginia on Saturday afternoon. On Senior Day for the Hokies, who are playing out the season of last Monday evening, November 17th, having announced the hiring of James Franklin as head coach. Miami is the number 13 team in the FBS per the season's third college football playoff rankings, which came out this past Tuesday night. A big item from this game, Hokies interim head coach Philip Montgomery in the fourth quarter benched Tech's QB1, 6'2 redshirt senior Kyron Drones in favor of Tech's QB2, 5'11 redshirt sophomore William Pop Watson III. Drones had another bad game. He went just 12 for 21 for just 124 yards, no touchdowns, and no interceptions. He took 4 sacks, which totaled minus 31 yards in lost yardage. He did have 10 carries for 62 yards when you take out the 4 sacks that he took. Watson went 2 for 3 for 77 yards, no touchdowns, and no interceptions. He took 1 sack, which was for a 10-yard loss. He had 2 carries for 9 yards and a touchdown when you take out the sack that he took. He did have a lost fumble, but Watson on his first snap of the game had a 4th and 11, 39-yard shotgun completion to receiver Aiden Green. Here was Philip Montgomery during his postgame press conference on Saturday afternoon on replacing Kyron Drones with Pop Watson.
Yeah, I thought Pop came in and did a nice job. Kyron took a couple of big shots in there. He's fine, but needed the opportunity to breathe for a second, and I thought Pop came in and made a couple of good throws, made a good run in there, did some nice things, and so Pop's been working all year. We all have faith in Pop and what he can bring to the table. But, Kyron right there, he took a couple of big shots right there in a row and, needed a second.
It has been a rough season for Kyron Drones. He for this season is 91st out of 134 qualified FBS quarterbacks in ESPN's total QBR, 54.4. Tech did run the ball well against a good Miami run defense. Two Hokies running backs, Central Missouri transfer Marcellus Hawkins and true freshman Jeffrey Overton Jr. They combined for 15 carries for 141 yards and a touchdown. But the Hokies got shredded by Miami quarterback Carson Beck. He went 27 for 32 for 320 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions, and took no sacks. He had 2 carries for 9 yards. Beck for this season is number 12 among all qualified FBS quarterbacks in ESPN's total QBR, 80.9. Next up for Virginia Tech is its season finale, which is at number 19 Virginia, Saturday night at 7. UVA, by the way, is the number 17 team in the FBS in the Associated Press Top 25 poll that came out on Sunday afternoon. And Liberty, it fell to 4-7 overall, including 3-4 in Conference USA, with a 34-28 overtime loss at Louisiana Tech on Saturday afternoon. The loss clinched Liberty not going to a bowl game for the first time since becoming bowl eligible with the 2019 season. Liberty had made a bowl in each of 6 consecutive seasons, 2019 through 2024. Really impressive run. But this was a choke job of a loss for Liberty at Louisiana Tech. The Flames blew a 28-7 third quarter lead. Liberty quarterback and Coastal Carolina transfer Ethan Vasco had a bad game. He threw 4 interceptions, all of which came in the second half. He went just 8 for 21 for just 141 yards, a touchdown, and the 4 interceptions. He took 1 sack, which was for a 10-yard loss. He had 7 carries for 38 yards when you take out the sack that he took. Vasco for this season is 110th out of 134 qualified FBS quarterbacks in ESPN's total QBR, 44.2. Liberty lost despite a big-time game for running back and Georgia Tech transfer Evan Dickens. He had 30 carries for 228 yards and 2 touchdowns. Next up for Liberty is its season finale, home to Kennesaw State, Saturday afternoon at 3:30 on Senior Day for Liberty. A very frustrating loss for the Washington Capitals in their lone game over the weekend, a 5-3 loss to the Tampa Bay Lightning at Capital One Arena on Saturday night. The Caps in the NHL's 2025-2026 regular season fell to 11-9-2. The loss snapped the Caps' 3-game winning streak. The Caps lost 5-3 despite 2 key players for the Lightning, winger Nikita Kucherov and center Braden Point, each leaving the game due to injury. The Caps starting goaltender was Logan Thompson. He stopped just 2 of the 6 shots on goal that he faced and was pulled in the first period in favor of Charlie Lindgren. He stopped 9 of the 10 shots on goal that he faced, but this marked the first time in this regular season that Caps head coach Spencer Carberry benched his starting goaltender during a game. During Carberry's postgame press conference on Saturday night, had this exchange between Caps insider Bailey Johnson of the Washington Post and Carberry.
What went into the decision to pull Logan in that spot there?
I think just momentum. He just gave up 4 in the first period, so it's just getting him out of there and giving Chucky an opportunity.
Logan Thompson overall is having a good season, but he now has struggled in each of his last 2 games. So the Caps 7-4 win over the Edmonton Oilers at Capital One Arena this past Wednesday night, November 19th. Thompson stopped just 26 of the 30 shots on goal that he faced. This loss to the Lightning on Saturday night was yet another game in which the Caps dominated the puck possession battle, but were awful on special teams. So the Caps lost 5-3 despite having 32 shots on goal to the Lightning 16, and per natural stat trick had 57 5-on-5 shot attempts to the Lightning's 26, including 15 5-on-5 high-danger shot attempts to the Lightning's 6, and the Caps went just 2 for 3 on the penalty kill and 0 for 6 on the power play, including giving up a short-handed goal in the first period. The Caps for this regular season, as of games through Saturday, were number 3 in the NHL in 5-on-5 shot attempt percentage per NHL.com, 54.3. Outstanding. But were number 29 out of 32 NHL teams in penalty kill efficiency, 71.8, and were number 27 out of 32 NHL teams in power play efficiency, 14.7. Caps special teams have been horrendous. Two bright spots for the Caps on Saturday night were defenseman Jakob Chychrun and top-line right wing Alex Ovechkin. Jakob Chychrun scored an even-strength goal, 5:26 into the second period for his sixth goal in this regular season, and he had a secondary assist. He did commit a third-period interference minor. And Alex Ovechkin had no points, but he did have a game-high 11 total shot attempts, including 4 shots on goal, and he had 4 hits. Center Nick Dowd did not play for a third consecutive game, this due to an upper body injury. The Caps' healthy scratches for the game were defensemen Declan Chisholm and Dylan McElrath. Next up for the Caps, home to the Columbus Blue Jackets Monday night at 7. Unfortunately, there are money scams all over the place these days, right? I get money scam text messages and emails constantly. I'm sure that you do too. This is why I'm a big fan of Cash App. Cash App gives you a peace of mind that your financial transactions are safe. Cash App's 24/7 fraud monitoring helps detect and alert you for unusual card activity should someone gain access to your card, so you can act fast if something seems off. You also can lock or unlock your Cash App card instantly right in the app for extra control and peace of mind. And if you're about to send money to someone for a deal that's too good to be true and Cash App flags the deal as a potential scam, Cash App will warn you before you send the money. Cash App is here for you. You this holiday season can stay one step ahead of scams and keep your money secure with Cash App. And for a limited time only, new Cash App customers can use Cash App's exclusive code to earn some additional cash for real. Just download Cash App, use the exclusive referral code SECURE10 in your profile, send $5 to a friend within 14 days, and you'll get $10 dropped right into your account. Terms apply. That's money. That's Cash App. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partner or partners. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Promotions provided by Cash App, a Block Inc. brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures. Talkspace is the #1 rated online therapy, bringing you professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatrists who you can access anytime, anywhere. Talkspace makes getting the help that you need easy, accessible, and affordable. One of my favorite things about Talkspace is that affordability. Talkspace therapy and psychiatry are covered by most insurers, and most insured members pay a copay of $0. Also, Talkspace is affordable even out of pocket. Therapy, of course, can be costly, but part of the mission of Talkspace is to provide quality care that is accessible and affordable, whether you are insured or not. And here's a special offer for listeners of the Al Galdi podcast. You get $80 off your first month of Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com/podcast and enter the promo code SPACE80, that's SPACE80, to match with a licensed therapist today. Go to Talkspace.com/podcast and enter that promo code SPACE80.
Lights are going up, snow is falling down, there's a feeling of goodwill around town. It could only mean one thing, McRib is here.
'Tis the season for seasoned pork, tangy barbecue sauce, onions, and pickles on that home-style bun. The McRib is coming to town, only for a limited time at participating McDonald's.
McRib is here, ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
The longest losing streak in a regular season for the Washington Bullets/Washington Wizards in franchise history is 16 games. The team, believe it or not, has had 4 different 16-game losing streaks in regular seasons. The Wizards in March 2010 lost 16 consecutive games. The Wizards in February and March 2024 lost 16 consecutive games. The Wizards in November and December 2024 lost 16 consecutive games. And the Wizards in January 2025 lost 16 consecutive games. Well, our Wizards right now are in the midst of a 14-game losing streak. 2 more losses over the weekend. Friday night, a 140-110 loss at the Toronto Raptors. This game was the Wizards' second game in the NBA's third ever in-season tournament, which is for the Emirates NBA Cup. The Wizards now are 0-10 all-time in in-season tournament games. Saturday night, a 121-120 loss at the Chicago Bulls. Our rebuilding and tanking Wizards in the NBA's 2025-2026 regular season now are 1-15. The loss at the Raptors on Friday night was a blowout. The Wizards trailed for all of the second, third, and fourth quarters. The Wizards' defense was terrible. They allowed the Raptors to score 140 points, go 14 for 28 on threes, and 34 for 55 on twos, attempt 39 free throws. The Raptors went 30 for 39 on free throws and register 36 assists. The Wizards went just 12 for 41 on threes. And the Wizards, in playing without Alex Sarr and Marvin Bagley III, got out-rebounded by the Raptors 48-29. But the loss at the Bulls on Saturday night was a game that the Wizards absolutely could have won. The Wizards blew a 16-point second-quarter lead and blew an 8-point fourth-quarter lead. Their final possession was brutal. They failed to get off a shot. The possession resulted in a turnover by Keyshawn George. Also, the Wizards nearly committed a 5-second violation, and Cam Whitmore, who had a very good game, was on the bench for that possession. The Wizards lost despite going 16 for 36 on threes and holding the Bulls to just 12 for 44 on threes. A big item in this game was free throws. The Wizards went 16 for 20 on free throws, pretty good percentage, but the Bulls went 25 for 30 on free throws. I give the Wizards credit, though. They nearly won at the Bulls despite being without a bunch of players. Trey Johnson did not play due to left hip flexor soreness. He in that loss at the Raptors had a nice game, 19 minutes, 26 seconds off the bench, 14 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 assists versus 1 turnover. He went 3 for 5 on threes, 2 for 3 on twos, and 1 for 2 on free throws. But also not playing for the Wizards on Saturday night, Chris Middleton did not play due to right knee injury management. Marvin Bagley III did not play for a second consecutive game due to a right hip contusion, and A.J. Johnson did not play for a second consecutive game due to a right ankle contusion. The Wizards on Saturday night did get back Alex Sarr. He returned from a 2-game absence caused by left big toe soreness. He in 27-56 as a starter had 16 points, 11 rebounds, and 4 assists versus 1 turnover. He did not shoot well. He went just 2 for 6 on threes, just 5 for 12 on twos, and 0 for 3 on free throws. So some other standouts for the Wizards on Saturday night. Corey Kispert, he in 36-51 as a starter went 3 for 6 on threes, 4 for 4 on twos, and 3 for 3 on free throws. He finished with 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists versus 1 turnover. Keyshawn George, he in 35-48 as a starter, had 17 points, 12 rebounds, including 4 offensive boards, 7 assists versus 4 turnovers, and 4 steals. He did struggle from the field, went just 1 for 3 on threes and just 4 for 11 on twos, but he went 6 for 6 on free throws. And Cam Whitmore, he in 17-31 off the bench, had 20 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 assists versus 2 turnovers. He went 2 for 4 on threes, 5 for 6 on twos, and 4 for 5 on free throws. Here was Wizards head coach Brian Keefe during his postgame press conference on Saturday night on what he's seeing from his team.
It's a group that's actually getting better. We're seeing glimpses of more how we want to play. Tonight you saw it just more consistent for 48. Starting with our defense, thought we were challenging shots, rebounding well at times, and then our pace and our ball movement. Starting to establish an identity. We're not where we want to be. We can continue to work on it, but you're seeing examples of how we really want to play, and that was a great example tonight.
Okay, next up for the Wizards, home to the Atlanta Hawks, Tuesday night at 7. So this past Friday at 8 p.m. was the deadline by which MLB teams needed to tender contracts to arbitration-eligible players, or else those players became free agents. The big question with this annual deadline is who gets non-tendered, i.e. who is allowed to become a free agent. Well, the the Washington Nationals did not non-tender any of their 7 arbitration-eligible players. So the Nats on Friday evening announced having agreed with catcher Riley Adams on a 1-year contract for the 2026 season, thus avoiding arbitration. And the Nats on Friday evening announced having tendered contracts to all of their other arbitration-eligible players. So those players, starting pitchers Mackenzie Gore, Josiah Gray, Cade Cavalli, and Jake Irvin, shortstop C.J. Abrams, and second baseman Luis Garcia Jr. The Nats' top 2 non-tender candidates were Jake Irvin and Luis Garcia. Each guy had a really bad 2025 season. Jake Irvin for the 2025 regular season was dead last among all qualified pitchers in MLB and ERA at 5.70. Next to last, by the way, was Nats starting pitcher / relief pitcher Mitchell Parker at 5.68. And Luis Garcia, he is the second baseman for the 2025 regular season, was next to last among all qualified players in MLB and Sports Info Solutions defensive runs saved at -17. He had one of the worst defensive seasons that you'll ever see a player have, so much so that he late in the regular season was playing first base. That the Nats agreed on a 1-year contract with Riley Adams and tendered contracts to all of their other arbitration eligible players doesn't mean that the team is keeping all of these guys. The Nats this offseason could trade one or more of these players, and there right now is a lot of talk about the Nats potentially trading Mackenzie Gore and/or C.J. Abrams, but especially with the Nats tendering contracts to Jake Irvin and Luis Garcia, what stands out to me is that what is entirely possible is that the Nats' new baseball operations regime wants to have players developed and coached by the team's new process before deciding on these players. The Nats, with Paul Taboni as president of baseball operations and Blake Butera as manager, are embracing analytics and sports science like never before. This is so needed by the Nats. This is so encouraging for the Nats. And so when it comes to a Jake Irvin or a Luis Garcia, I wonder if Taboni looks at these guys and says, yeah, each guy was quite bad this past season, but each guy has talent. Let's see how each guy does when developed and coached in a better, more modern way. And I think that that is an entirely reasonable approach to take. The Nats pitching coach now is Simon Matthews. He's just 30. He joined the Nats off spending 5 seasons with the Cincinnati Reds organization, including as their assistant pitching coach for the 2025 season. He graduated from Georgetown University in 2017. He pitched for the Hoyas for the 2015 through 2017 seasons, off having transferred from Temple University following the 2014 season. But perhaps most notable about Matthews, his sports science background. He, prior to joining the Reds organization in 2021, was the director of pitching at Push Performance in Tempe, Arizona, and was an online trainer for Driveline Baseball. And Matthews, in those jobs, per the press release from the Nats, quote, designed throwing programs for pitchers with an emphasis on improving movement patterns and velocity and promoted arm health, end quote. What might Simon Matthews be able to do with Jake Irvin? Matthews did a virtual press conference this past Wednesday, November 19th. We, during that presser, had this exchange between Nats insider Andrew Golden of the Washington Post and Matthews.
As the pitching coach, like how important is it for you to establish an identity as a group? What do you want that to be? And I guess how do you balance that with the fact that each individual pitcher is unique and different?
I think my sort of foundational belief about pitching is that you really have to honor the individual gifts of the player, right? And one of the things that's really fabulous about the modern age of baseball is we can shorten the feedback loop on identifying those. Like, really, what is it about this guy that makes him awesome, that makes him a major league pitcher? And I want guys to feel celebrated for that. And I want that to become the centerpiece of kind of how we approach building a successful major league arsenal and game plan for them. And I want to bring them in and feel like partners in the process, right? And I think ultimately when first you promise to do that, and then day in and day out you deliver that, and people feel as though that's what's happening, that's their experience of playing for you. I think that's where you get a foundational relationship that you can build a culture on top of, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the widespread belief is that the Nats in the 2026 season will be bad again. Maybe, but let's see what they do this offseason. And a big wild card is what this new baseball ops regime can do with the players already in place. There may be a lot more that Paul Taboni and his people get out of these players than we have seen from these players. The Baltimore Orioles, in the lead-up to the deadline by which MLB teams needed to tender contracts to arbitration-eligible players this past Friday night at 8, non-tendered one of the team's 12 arbitration-eligible players. So the O's on Friday morning announced having traded catcher Alex Jackson to the Minnesota Twins. Jackson had been an arbitration-eligible player. The O's on Friday evening announced having agreed with closer Felix Bautista on a one-year contract for the 2026 season, thus avoiding arbitration. Bautista is expected to be out for most of the 2026 season. He, this past August 19th, underwent surgery to repair a torn right rotator cuff and torn right labrum. And the O's this past August 20th, in announcing the surgery, said that he was expected to be out for 12 months. The O's on Friday evening announced having tendered contracts to 10 arbitration-eligible players. Those players: shortstop Gunnar Henderson, catcher Adley Rutschman, first baseman Ryan Mountcastle, outfielder Taylor Ward, starting pitchers Trevor Rogers, Kyle Bradish, Dean Kramer, and Tyler Wells, and relief pitchers Keegan Aiken and Yennier Cano. And the O's on Friday evening announced having non-tendered starting pitcher / relief pitcher Albert Suarez. What most stands out from all of this are two things. Number one, the O's did tender a contract to Ryan Mountcastle. They did not non-tender him. Number two, the O's did non-tender Albert Suarez. Mountcastle was a big-time non-tender candidate of having a down and injury-marred 2025 season. Also, the O's now have two key young players in Samuel Basallo and Kobe Mayo as options for first base, but the O's tendered Mountcastle, and I do get why. He has shown he can hit, and the O's, off back-to-back injury-plagued seasons, need depth. The decision to non-tender Albert Suarez was interesting. I'm assuming was about health and age. Suarez had an injury-plagued 2025 season, what was his age 35 season. So he is an older player. He was on the 15-day injured list from March 30th, retroactive to March 29th to April 7th, and was on the 60-day injured list from April 7th to September 1st. All of this due to a right shoulder injury. And then the O's on September 15th announced having placed Suarez on the 15-day injured list due to right elbow discomfort. He, in MLB's 2025 regular season, pitched in just 5 games, including one start. But Suarez, the previous season, was a really valuable player for the O's. Albert Suarez, in MLB's 2024 regular season, registered 2.2 wins above replacement per Baseball Reference, as he, over 32 games, including 24 starts, totaled 133 and 2/3 innings and had an ERA of 3.70 and an ERA plus of 105. And he did this off having not pitched in an MLB regular season game since September 2017. But the biggest news with the O's over the last week is the shocking trade that they announced late night this past Tuesday night. The O's late night this past Tuesday night announced having traded starting pitcher Grayson Rodriguez to the Los Angeles Angels for outfielder Taylor Ward. Grayson Rodriguez did not pitch in a single game in MLB's 2025 regular season. He, this past August 11th, underwent season-ending right elbow debridement surgery. He's going into just his age 26 season, but he has barely pitched over the last 2 seasons now. Rodriguez in MLB's 2024 regular season was solid when healthy. 20 starts, 116 and 2/3 innings, ERA of 3.86, strikeouts per 9 innings of 10.03, but he was on the 15-day injured list from May 1st, 2024, retroactive to April 30th, 2024 to May 18th, 2024, due to right shoulder inflammation. And then he went back on the 15-day injured list on August 7th, 2024, retroactive to August 4th, 2024, due to right lat / teres discomfort. And he ended up being done for the season. Look, Orioles president of baseball operations and general manager Mike Elias clearly does not trust Grayson Rodriguez to stay healthy. Elias can't say that, but he absolutely must think that. Otherwise, why do you make this trade? And I would just say this. Elias better be right about that, because the O's traded a starting pitcher going into just his age 26 season with 4 more seasons of team control for an outfielder in Taylor Ward, who's going into his age 32 season and his final season of team control. This trade is a classic case of you better be right. Taylor Ward was an oft-injured player for a while, but he, over MLB's 2024 and 2025 regular seasons, was healthy and productive. 313 games, 61 home runs, OPS plus of 113. The trade makes the O's better for 2026. Grayson Rodriguez is expected to be on a strict workload limit for 2026. But what about beyond 2026? That's the question. Again, Mike Elias better be right. This was MLB insider Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic and Fox on the YouTube show Foul Territory this past Friday on whether the Orioles' infamous tank job under Mike Elias has been successful.
It was successful in the sense that they made the playoffs back-to-back seasons in 23 and 24. It has not been successful in taking that next step to being a World Series type contender. And they took a significant step backwards last season. And the criticism of Elias has been that as great a job as he did building up their system and bringing prospects to the majors, he has not been able to finish off with the top of the roster. And we saw that last year with the offseason that they had when they only brought in Morton and Shigano when they had just lost Corbin Burns. It wasn't enough. The rotation fell apart early on, and until Rogers got going, until Bradish came back, it was a complete mess. So it is fair, certainly, to look at Mike Elias and say, okay, this is it now. You have a team that should be better. We have a division in which the Toronto Blue Jays came off last place finish last year and went right to the top. So this is a huge offseason for Elias, and there's not much question about that. The Rodriguez trade, a couple of things. I mentioned it on my show and maybe on Foul Territory a couple of days ago. One, to me, this is a clear vote of no confidence in Grayson Rodriguez. They do not believe he's going to be healthy enough, not just in 26, but in the 3 years beyond, to continue investing in terms of their franchise, thinking that he is going to be the guy. The other part of this was Taylor Ward is a right-handed bat, a right-handed hitting outfielder in a market that is starved for right-handed hitting outfielders. So he was kind of a rare commodity. It took a high price to get him. Now, whether this works or not, we don't know right now. It's certainly fair to assume that Grayson Rodriguez in 2026 will be on innings limits. The Angels have already said that. We know that. He hasn't pitched in a year and a half. Beyond that is the question. And he seems confident. We're going to have him on the show later today. He seems confident that he's going to be able to throw a lot of innings. But again, what the Orioles did in making this trade was show their lack of confidence that he will be able to do that.
Absolutely. And again, Mike Elias better be right. Talkspace is the #1 rated online therapy, bringing you professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatrists who you can access anytime, anywhere. Talkspace makes getting the help that you need easy, accessible, and affordable. One of my favorite things about Talkspace is that affordability. Talkspace therapy and psychiatry are covered by most insurers, and most insured members pay a copay of $0. Also, Talkspace is affordable even out of pocket. Therapy, of course, can be costly, but part of the mission of Talkspace is to provide quality care that is accessible and affordable, whether you are insured or not. And here's a special offer for listeners of the Al Galdi podcast. You get $80 off your first month of Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com/podcast and enter the promo code SPACE80, that's SPACE80, to match with a licensed therapist today. Go to Talkspace.com/podcast and enter that promo code SPACE80.
In Walmart's Who'Newville, everyone ready their cart. Amazing Black Friday deals are about to start. Online and in the app, such great deals to explore. Everything you love from tech, toys, and more. The days to save and the ones to remember. It's only the 25th to the 30th of November. Set your alarms. Don't miss out. These deals are epic, without a doubt. The Who's are all ready, but are you? Walmart Black Friday deals await. Who knew?
And we move now to college basketball. Georgetown is 5-0 in a regular season for the first time since the 2017-2018 regular season. A 92-75 win over Wagner at Capital One Arena on Saturday afternoon. The Hoyas never trailed. They were really good offensively. 92 points, 9 for 22 on threes, 20 for 40 on twos, 25 for 28 on free throws, 21 assists versus just 9 turnovers. Each of the Hoyas' 5 starters scored at least 10 points. Leading the way was 6'2" Malik Mack. He, in 29 minutes as a starter, went 4 for 7 on threes. Did go just 2 for 8 on twos, but he went 2 for 2 on free throws. Finished with 18 points, 5 assists versus no turnovers and 2 rebounds. And on the minds of the Hoyas was 7'1" St. John's transfer Vince Iwuchukwu. Georgetown this past Tuesday evening, November 18th, announced that Iwuchukwu, a key rotational player, quote, will undergo a scheduled medical procedure. He is generally in good health and will take a brief recovery period with a follow-up evaluation expected within 6 to 8 weeks. He will return once he is cleared at that evaluation. He is in good spirits and appreciates the support, end quote. This was Hoyas head coach Ed Cooley during his postgame press conference on Saturday afternoon.
Prior to the game, had an opportunity to talk with Vince. He's in a really good space, good spirits. Told him how much we loved him, how much we missed him, and that we're praying for him. And then our players, I thought we went out and did what we had to do. There were a lot of mistakes, yet at the same time, I thought we played with purpose. I mean, we could always get better, but in games like this here, we landed the plane. The guys did a good job. We shared the ball, 21 assists today, which is, I think, the high for us. It may be the high since we've been here. It could be. I could be off 1 or 2.
Well, 23 is the highest assist total for Georgetown in a regular season game with Ed Cooley as head coach. But he had 21 assists in this win over Wagner. Quite nice. Next up for Georgetown is it playing in the 2025 Terry's Chocolate ESPN Events Invitational in Florida. First up is a game on Thanksgiving night. The Hoyas versus Dayton at State Farm Fieldhouse in Kissimmee, Florida on Thursday night at approximately 7:30. Also playing over the weekend was Virginia. It played 2 games at Colonial Hall at the Greenbrier in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia in the 2025 Greenbrier tip-off. A Friday, an 83-78 win over Northwestern, but Sunday afternoon, an 80-73 loss to Butler. UVA in this regular season now is 5-1 overall. The Cavaliers in the win over Northwestern overcame a 7-point first-half deficit as they trailed in a game for the first time in this regular season. The Cavs in the loss to Butler overcame an 11-point first-half deficit, but the Cavs' largest lead of the game was by just 1 point. Some bad shooting by UVA over the weekend. The win over Northwestern. UVA shot poorly from the field, was great on free throws, but the Cavs went just 5 for 24 on threes and just 19 for 40 on twos. Did go 30 for 36 on free throws. The loss to Butler, UVA's overall shooting was really bad. The Cavs went just 8 for 27 on threes, just 21 for 44 on twos, and just 7 for 15 on free throws. A mixed defense for UVA over the weekend. The win over Northwestern, UVA allowed Northwestern to go 7 for 16 on threes, did hold Northwestern to just 20 for 42 on twos. The loss to Butler, UVA held Butler to just 21 for 41 on twos, but allowed Butler to go 6 for 15 on threes and have 29 free throw attempts, though Butler went just 20 for 29 on free throws. Now, something that is really encouraging with UVA is its size. UVA's size is making an impact. The win over Northwestern, UVA out-rebounded Northwestern 49-25, including having 21 offensive rebounds to Northwestern's 6. UVA had 18 second-chance points to Northwestern's 11. 6'9" Belgian true freshman Testa Ritter. He, in 27 minutes, 21 seconds as a starter, had 26 points, 8 rebounds, including 5 offensive boards, and no assists versus 3 turnovers. He went 0 for 1 on threes, 9 for 14 on twos, and 8 for 9 on free throws. And the loss to Butler, 7-foot Nigerian Kansas State transfer Ugana Onyenso, in 22-34 off the bench, had 8 blocks and 7 rebounds, including 3 offensive boards. But how about that? 8 blocks He did go 0 for 2 on threes and just 1 for 4 on twos. Did not attempt a free throw and scoring just 2 points. But man, 8 blocks by Ugana Onyenso in that loss to Butler. Some other standouts for UVA over the weekend are the win over Northwestern. 5'10" true freshman Chance Mallory. He had 25-02 off the bench, had 16 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 steals. He went just 1 for 4 on threes, but 2 for 3 on twos and 9 for 10 on free throws. The loss to Butler, 6'5" San Francisco transfer Malik Thomas, 28-01 as a starter, 3 for 7 on threes, 6 for 10 on twos. Did go just 3 for 6 on free throws, but he finished with 24 points and 3 rebounds. Next up for Virginia, home to Queens, Friday afternoon at 4. And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Tuesday's show, episode 1206. We'll have plenty for you on the Washington Commanders, as we on Monday have head coach Dan Quinn's post-bye week press conference. Also on Tuesday's show, I'll talk Washington Capitals. The Caps are home to the Columbus Blue Jackets Monday night at 7. And on Tuesday's show, we'll discuss Maryland basketball. The Terrapins have a game against UNLV at MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas on Monday night at midnight in the 2025 Players Era Men's Championship. Have a great rest of your Monday, and I'll talk to you on Tuesday.
A game like this, you got to ask the smartest people you know. Jayden Daniels is one of the smartest people I know. He said to rock with the Crimson, so I'm picking Harvard.
If you're a smoker or dipper ready to make a change, you really only need one good reason. But with Zyn nicotine pouches, you'll discover many good reasons. Zyn is America's #1 nicotine pouch brand. Plus, Zyn offers a robust rewards program. There are lots of options when it comes to nicotine satisfaction, but there's only one Zyn. Check out Zyn.com/find to find Zyn at a store near you. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.